What's going on? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And on the phone line is a recurring guest from the Miguel and Holly show on Hot 1015 in Tampa Bay. Miguel Fuller is on Hoppe Hour. What's up, bro?
Hello, Ryan Hoppe. Thank you for having me back on.
Dude, what a journey it has been for you. I'm very glad to have you on because I've been in town for 6 years and I pretty much joined around the time that you guys began. And I know that you were on Tampa radio 12, 13 years ago before you came to Tampa. But it's been so cool to see you go from first joining this market to now being one of the marquee shows here in Tampa.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And God, when you say 12, 13 years, I like, good Lord, how old am I now? Jesus Christ, has it really been that long? But yeah, Holly and I were first here with another morning show from 2011 to 2012. Then we went back to the city where we came from to then do the Miguel show with Mandy and Holly. And then in 2015, March 30th of 2015, they had us back.
And do you have a lot of listeners from your time in Panama City that keep on listening? Because I know I first met you at the morning show boot camp about 8 years ago. And I remember there was a little bit of like a talk amongst the room where everybody was kind of saying, this guy's the next big thing. And I'm not saying this to kiss your ass, Miguel. I'm legitimately saying you had this presence when you walked into the room that like everybody was like, even though he's in a small market, this guy's due for big things.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for saying that because I never feel that. I always feel like the small person, the novice, the baby DJ that's still trying to figure out how to turn the microphones on. So I really, really appreciate you saying that because I love morning show boot camp and I always walk away with tons of knowledge, tons of friends, and it's like a little mini reunion that I still get nervous going to every year.
What's funny about the morning show boot camp is, to me, I'm getting ready. I'm picking out the clothes I want to wear. I go to the airport and I'm acting all hard, like I'm ready for the boot camp. Like, oh yeah, this is my time. I'm going to kick ass. And then there's something really intimidating about being in the same room as all these huge names that, like, no matter how long you've been in radio, it's nerve wracking.
It is. Well, and I think too, with our industry, everything in radio is so subjective. There's no like, this is funny, this is relatable. Like, yes, there are themes that you could talk about or, you know, things that you could do or subject matter. Like, it was just like amazing and your listeners thought it was funny. And then they play the audio in front of your peers and everyone's like, well, wait. That was that bit y'all did. That was like the best one from the year. You think that's funny? So that's why, like, I never judge anybody when I go because I'm like, I could just as easily get up there for Battle of the Bits and think that I've got the thing that's going to bring the house down and it's crickets. And so it is, no matter who you are, super intimidating.
What's the harshest advice you've ever gotten amongst the radio peer, if it's at the morning show boot camp or within our office? For me, I'll never forget. I was drunk outside hanging out with Brother Weeze, I think in 2014. And he's like, Hoppe, it's going to be a long journey for you. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, it's what I just said. I'm going to go to bed now. Bye. And he walked away.
Sounds on brand for him. Absolutely. I think for me, it's sort of knowing from the beginning that I present a very untraditional show. Like, I am not a smooth talker. I am not this, you know, creative genius that pumps out bits, you know, or creative, larger than life ideas. I'm not outrageously funny. I'm just me. I'm just a person that, like, sometimes can be funny. Sometimes I'm a curmudgeon. Sometimes my ideas don't make any damn sense. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to be honest about it. And I'm going to be vulnerable. And I'm just going to be me because that's all I know how to be. And there were a couple of people at the beginning of my career who were like, you are good enough. I just don't know if the industry will embrace what you have to bring and how you present it. And there have been some difficult stops along the way of people being like, well, maybe we need to bring in like a lead to help you and Holly when we first started here in Tampa. Or maybe we need someone to intro and outro the breaks because you sort of seem a little mechanical with how you do those things. And I'm like, I'm just learning how to do this. Like, give me a chance. Like you gave everyone a chance. And so thankfully, because of our time here and we've had, a few program directors, I've been able to sort of find my footing and really sort of understand what it is that I bring to the table and improve upon it.
So I've been in the building for pretty much as long as you've been at Hot, because you joined, you said, in March 2015. I joined the Bone in May 2015. And it is kind of something that we don't really talk about a lot, but there have been a lot of different program directors that have gone throughout Hot 1015 in the past 6 years. Has that been hard on you, where maybe one guy wants you to do the show this way, or throughout that time, have you just done your thing?
Absolutely, it was hard because every time you have a new boss come in, and that's not just radio, that's with an air conditioner company, a fast food restaurant, every person that is leading the charge, they come in with their own set of ideas because no one ever usually makes a transition of leadership when things are going really well. So either the program director we had, it was, personally they were ready to move on, or maybe they were just like, you know what, I thought this was a fit, but it's not. But when they come in there, they're like, I'm going to be the one to change it. I'm going to be the one to do it. Here are my ideas. And so everybody, each person that has sat in that chair has, had their hand on the show, for better or for worse. But I will say that everyone has left us better than where they found us. And so it's been very frustrating, having 6 different directions over this time. But because of having those program directors, and these were all people with amazing track records, they each sort of dug something out of us that made us better each time.
Has there been any moments, though, Miguel, where maybe you've been sort of down on yourself, where maybe you're sad that the ratings in the beginning, I don't know the ratings you've had, but maybe there was a point where you wanted the ratings to be better? Was there ever a point where you, even though you weren't going to, was there ever a point where you thought about quitting or just kind of wanting to give up?
No, I'm not a quitter. I don't quit. I will trudge through until, everybody in the world is like, give up. I will not quit. But yes, it has been frustrating, and it's been, bang your head up against the wall. And that's the thing about radio, is that you have to look for wins outside of ratings. And especially if you're a new show, even, the ratings could be crappy. You hold an event, no one shows up. The people in the building aren't really gelling with you really well. But then you may do a topic one morning and then you put it on social media. And then that one topic, when you're used to getting, 3 or 4 comments, that day it gets 50. And you've never had that before in this new station, new situation. And so you take that as your win. You hold on to that for a couple days and you're like, damn it, look at that. We got 50 comments on that. And then there's another one. Oh, you got this endorsement that, we never thought that we could get on this radio station, but they came on here because they really like what you all do. And so you look for those little wins along the way, and that keeps driving you forward. Because if you just put all of your hopes and dreams, and especially as a new show, on ratings, you're going to be very sad. Because a lot of times you don't have a lot of control over that. It is what it is. You just have to do the best show you can do every day and make sure that you don't drop the ball or you don't give a B or C level performance. You got to go in there on your A game every single day. And then eventually it will catch up.
What do you do? Now, I want to ask you this because I need some advice. Now I'm in a relationship and I work crazy hours on the weekend, Miguel. And I work crazy hours during the week. And I know you do too. Do you ever have it where when you're hanging out with Abe, does he ever think you're in a bad mood, but you're not in a bad mood? You're just tired? Because for me, there's times I come home and I'm just tired, man. And my girl's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. I just work in radio and I'm tired. Have you had that in the years you've been in radio where you've had to tell your boyfriend, no, I'm not mad. I'm just tired?
Yes, that's probably every other day. Um, when you've been doing this for a long time and you wake up and you have the hours that we do and wake up at 3:15 every day, and it's now been for a long time, as you pointed out earlier. Thanks a lot. I'm old now.
You're welcome.
That's just a part of it, but you hopefully are with someone that understands and you sort of communicate that. And so there will be days where my fiance will be like, all right, are you just tired or are you mad at something or at me? And I'm like, nope, today's just a day that I am done. I am checked out. I'm exhausted. I cannot be entertaining or anything. But then you got to make sure that you make it up to them. And
Yes.
You also are giving them their time because, yes, they chose you and we do this job, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you have to just be like, well, sorry, it is what it is. This is my job. You have to, just like we try at our jobs, you have to try it in that relationship. So if I have a really bad day or I'm just dead to the world and I'm tired, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make it up somehow the next day in sexual favors and chicken.
Sounds about right, man. That's the same thing that happens here. That's the same thing that happens here at the Hoppe household. But I want to ask you, the thing that I find fascinating is I'm having a hard time turning off radio. For me, it's I check social media because I get interaction, and then I go to bed and I have a dream about radio, and then I wake up and it's time to go to work. How do you turn it off, Miguel? Do you just cuddle with Abe on the couch and leave the phone in the other room? What's the key when we're so wrapped up in our job and we're so wrapped up in social media and we're slightly wrapped up in ourselves? What's the way to just separate yourself from it and not feel like you're missing out?
The thing that you have to realize is the most engaging, dynamic personalities that you've known or met or interviewed in radio never sit around and talk about how they thought or did radio for all these hours. They talk about how they have these great adventures or they have these really interesting lives or these great, side hobbies that get your mind off of radio. That's why I'm very big. For me, I do CrossFit every day. And if I don't, I try to ride my bike or I do something where I'm not on my phone. I'm not thinking about it. It actively takes me out of that mind of thinking about the radio. There's always that undercurrent because you're always mining your life for content. And so if something crazy happens to me, like one day I was on a bike ride and I saw this weird looking old school baby crib in the woods. And I was like, is there a murder about to happen or something? But I was doing something outside of radio that then I could take that story back. And then we have this whole thing for a week of us trying to figure out what happened in that area or what did I witness a crime or something like that. So you have to realize that in order for you to be the best successful radio personality and boyfriend in your sense and just human is you got to get outside of radio because no one wants to hear someone on the radio or on a podcast talk about, oh my God, I'm so tired from being in radio or hear all the things that I thought about. They just want to be entertained. And so you have to live an entertaining life to be able to do your job and to communicate to that and also go through the ups and downs of life to be able to relate to your audience as well.
Now, are you as close to Holly and Scotty as you are on air, as you are off air? Because whenever I listen, when I'm just driving in the morning, it just sounds like you guys are having a blast. And whenever I'm helping out Kelta in the morning, you guys just have such good energy. So is it the same on air and off air?
Yes. I'm right now in my room. And I just got home a few minutes ago and Scott and he lives at my townhouse. And so we were together all morning and then he's making lunch now and I'm up in my room chatting with you. And then when we're done, I will go downstairs, get a quick bite to eat. And then we're at the same CrossFit gym. We go to the same class. So we literally see each other all the time. And that's how Holly and I were when we first started working together in 2008. We lived together and worked together to me, that's sort of a requirement of my show and how I like to do things. Is I want to know that yes, we have differences, and Scott comes from a way different background than Holly and I, and he's a different age group. And so you want that sort of natural conflict on your show because you don't want everybody just sitting around agreeing with each other. Like there has to be some sort of conflict there, but you have to be able to get along with each other. I don't like shows where it's everybody just making fun of everyone and like just getting in at each other, or it's like, you know, you can't trust the people in your room, because in today's world of radio, like there's 3 people on our show and we produce a lot of content 7 days a week, you know, 24/7 all the time. If we can't trust each other, then we're screwed. And so you have to have that level of friendship and trust to be able to put on the type of product that we aim to put out every day.
I think one of the hardest parts about doing radio with people that don't like each other, and this is just for any show ever, is the commercial break and then having to come back and act like everything's good. To me, it's some of the most forced, awkward things ever. Whenever I've experienced that, where there's like something going on in the break and then you come back and either you talk about it, and then if you don't talk about it, it's almost worse, because then it's like there's that like, dude, it's like this negative energy. It's like there's a factory outside of the room and it's just putting in this toxic smoke. It's the weirdest thing. Whenever there's a disagreement and then there's anger going back on air, I feel like the listeners can feel it.
Oh, absolutely. But and that's why I feel like a morning show, or any show for that matter, where there's more than one person, it's like a marriage. You have to communicate. You have to talk about these things that are going on. Like, why are you in a bad mood today? Why are you normally, you know, jovial and happy, and today you're just biting people's heads off? That means there's probably something going on at home that, you know, if you are comfortable, we should talk about, because everything that you do, you bring into that studio, and it's like, all right, we can't solve your problem right now behind the scenes, but maybe we can find a way to talk about it and you can deal with it on the air. And then that's another way to be relatable, because everybody's stressed. Everybody's got so much stuff going on. That's just more ways for you to connect with your audience. And even if you are having those disagreements, I'm like, talk about it. But you have to have that trust, that foundation of trust, that if you are going to have those type of discussions in the air, you're not going to make anyone look stupid, or you're not going to embarrass anyone or do a gotcha moment. Like, yes, you want surprises and you want fun and you want conflict, but to me, there will be life outside of radio. I will be friends with Holly. I will be friends with Scott outside of however long our show will be on. And I would much rather make sure that those friendships are intact than make sure that I'm doing a gotcha or fighting on the radio just for good radio, because who's going to be your friend when you're done?
That's a good point, because I feel like a lot of times some of these radio guys that you'll see at the boot camp, that you'll hear like rumblings like amongst people at bars that the whole team doesn't like them. And then that person retires, and it just seems like even though they killed it in that town forever and ever, it seems like the way they leave is just kind of awkward. It's like everybody wants them to leave, you know?
Right. And I'm not saying that you have to have everybody like you, but at least your team, the people that you are in that small room with for hours on end, 5 days a week, and you're doing events or you're doing social media or you're involved in each other's lives, these are your friends. Like, would you treat your real friend like that? Like, I would never do that. I want them to trust me, and I trust them, because it is literally us against the world. And so you want to make sure that you have that foundation set. Like, have there been people that have not operated that way and been successful? Absolutely. I just wouldn't be able to live with myself if I treated the people on my show that way.
How huge has the addition of Scotty the Body been for the show?
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was the shot in the arm of energy that we needed, Holly and I, to sort of have a fresh perspective. Because Holly and I have always worked with other people. We worked with Steve Kramer, who's now in Baltimore. Then we worked with Mandy and Jimmy, who are now in Louisville, Kentucky. And so after being together for so many years throughout all these changes, we were used to sort of having this big ensemble show. And then to go from that to just us, we were learning at the beginning how to just balance it between the two of us because we're so alike. And having Scott come in at this critical moment in our lives where I'm not in my early 20s, even late 20s anymore. I'm in my mid 30s. You know, I'm not going out every weekend. I'm not going on dates. I'm not doing those things that was so much a part of who I was on the radio. I'm now buying a house and I'm engaged and all these things. And so, you know, it's not like I'm living the most exciting, crazy. So I've had to rejigger how I mine content for my life. Holly has to do that as well. And so having Scott come in has sort of helped us a new life, a new era to it. And then too, just having that young male perspective that we've never had before has been exciting because it's just a new set of conversations to have, a new set of stories, a new way of looking at life. And there's so many times that when Scott comes in and we're giving advice for someone and we're like, what the hell advice is this? What are you talking about? And he's a 24-year-old straight boy. And it's perfect because then it just takes us down a rabbit hole that we would have never thought about. And so it's been an amazing addition.
How often does he ask for advice from you or Holly or Boss Man Will?
In life or just in radio?
Both.
A lot. I mean, just like anybody who's 24 who is doing this for the first time. And it's not always let's have a sit down conversation. To me, I sort of, especially when he first started with us coming from the street team and we saw that he was coming in and hanging out in the studio more and that, okay, maybe this is someone that we can have help out on the show. And so I like him to understand why we do the things that we do because we're a very intentional show. When we open the mics, our intention is whatever it is, but we've set the intention. And so for him, who is like a sponge who wants to understand how to put on a show and how to do it, I wanted him to understand that. And so there was a lot of, especially at the beginning of, all right, we just did 5 minutes on this. Do you see why I did this? Why I played that sound effect? Why Holly contributed there? Why I took a phone call there? This is why. And so there was a lot of sort of understanding of how do we put the pieces of this puzzle together. So there will come a time where he'll go off and do his own thing. He'll understand how to put a show together.
Now, when it's all said and done, how do you want people to explain your legacy in radio?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I want people to know and understand that we truly, truly live by the saying that we say on our show all the time is that you have to take responsibility for the energy you bring into your space, into your city. And when we came here to Tampa, we truly wanted to make this a more loving city because the great history of radio here in Tampa was great, but it was so combative. Everybody had the radio wars and they were fighting and calling out people and the gotcha moments and the crazy shock 'em, walk 'em, stunts, which is great. And it has a place for that and it always will. But we wanted to carve out a space for people that wanted a little bit more. They wanted to go a little bit deeper. So that's why on our show, we are an intentional show. And it's not like we're all serious, like we're fun, but when we talk about celebrities, we made a conscious decision years ago that we wouldn't just do a Hollywood segment and make fun of people, that we would actually try to understand, because these are people, why they're making these decisions. And so hopefully having that empathy on celebrities and our listeners and ourselves and the situations that we talk about, the people that listen to us would then take that empathy and infuse it into their lives. And then hopefully making this a more positive, loving, empathetic city. So I hope that's our legacy.
So for people that have not heard the show, why should they listen and where can they check out the morning show?
Well, you can listen because you should listen because it's a gay black man. It's a white single mother and a 24-year-old white straight man who's single and just living his best life. And you put the three of us in a little airtight studio for 4 hours a day. And I think magic happens. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's moving. Sometimes it's informative. But I always say, if you miss a day, you miss a lot. And you can listen to us on Hot 101.5, on the app, on Alexa. And we also do an uncensored podcast 3 times a week that you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Well, Miguel, thank you for being on the show. I'm glad we're friends. And over the years, you have said some very genuine. At the time, I would have taken it as harsh advice, but you've always been genuine, and nobody can ever take that away from you, Miguel. You're genuine. What you say on air is what you say to people, and that's never been overlooked by me.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and it's been awesome watching your journey here in Tampa, seeing it from afar at first, from boot camp when I first met you, to seeing it here and seeing how you have taken this love of radio and just full speed ahead said, no prisoners. I'm just going to go for it and do it. It's been really awesome to watch and very inspiring. Well,
as a radio geek, Miguel, and you're a radio geek as well, you know that when there is so much competition, and I'm unconventional as well, so you know, being both unconventional and being radio nerds, as when I used to board up overnight, you'd be listening to NPR in the morning. For me, when I'm going to work, I'm listening to old Opie and Anthony from 20 years ago. But it's the same thing where when this is what we've wanted to do since we were younger, it's like that's all we have. And when we have a chip on our shoulder that we have to make it and not everybody believes in us, it almost makes you better at your job because you never want to mess up. Like you just want to be the best that you can be.
Right. Absolutely. Because you know that you can do it and you continue to do it and you go back to those wells of inspiration to continue to help you to propel forward. Absolutely.
Well, Miguel, keep up the good work. And I should see you this Friday as I will be board hopping the Mike Kelta house party, as everybody will be live from his house and I will be board hopping the madness in the Bone Room.
Well, that sounds like a fun time.
Awesome. Thank you, Miguel.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that was the one and only Miguel Fuller. And words cannot explain how genuine and awesome he is. Now, if you're a fan of the Miguel and Holly show, and you want to listen to my show, it's not hard. It's not rocket science. Go to every single platform that has a podcast: Spotify, TuneIn, Spreaker, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Mixcloud, and search up Hoppe Radio, Hoppe Radio. This has been Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, signing off. Bye now.
Hoppe. This is Hoppe Hour.